for coming in. I'm Sarah Lee, the gallery director here at Medanos College. Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to recognize our art department chairs, Lucy and Aaron. Eric, you want to say something?
I'm good.
Oh, okay, all right, cool. So we are excited to celebrate Sacramento artist Jennifer Lugris right here. She has shown in major exhibitions collected by places like Facebook and the state of Hawaii and also the UC Davis Health and supported by the National Endowment of the Arts.
Long may it
In your terms, I guess trending words are like, no cap, it slaps. Are you guys awake now? Anyways, Jennifer will be talking more about her work. Usually I give a little blurb, but I talk too much, so I didn't take away too much of the artist, and today it's her spotlight, so please welcome Jennifer! Yay!
Hi, so I want to start off by thanking Sarah Lee for inviting me to show here. I want to thank Los Medanos College and all the lovely faculty, deans, VPs, Cesar for having me. I want to thank my parents for giving birth to me. And for making all of this possible. And I really want to thank the students. So I taught at community college for 6 years, and it was so eye-opening and such a joy. So it's really lovely to be here with you all today. So in case you haven't realized, this show is about my North Korean ancestry, and when Sarah Lee invited me to show it, this is the first time I'm showing this work, she told me that she also is a descendant of North Korea. So I thought, wow, what a perfect combination to have a curator who understands my story. So I'm going to walk you through that story, but I really want to make a mention that this is my mom's story. This painting right here is called The Secrets Now Revealed, and whenever I talk to people from North Korea, they tell me like, oh, like they didn't want to say anything, that story was buried. My mother, who was born in South Korea but raised in Argentina, says, mi madre nunca me dijo nada, which means like my mother never told me anything. So this painting is about how when we're children, we're taught like, don't do that, don't dress like that, don't say this. But then as adults, we really need to kind of erase a lot of what we're taught to be able to bloom into who we're meant to be able to have courage to tell our stories, to let them out. And what I love most about this exhibition are the stories that are finally beginning to surface and come out of hiding from people who are not just descendants of North Korea, but who also have really difficult family histories that have been buried. So we'll move over this way. I'm going to kind of walk you through. So this painting is called My Twin Self. So I made one, there was my twin self and then my twin mother, but my twin mother sold. And it's just basically me as an artist. So when I was growing up, my mom told me, you can study anything but art. But here I am today because I fought for what I knew had to be true and what needed to be done. So this painting is about that. Then we have here petting my dying dog. So this is my dog Cusco, who I've had for 10 years, and he's dying. And he's a really funny, ugly, cute kind of dog, and I just wanted to remember him. So when you're painting somebody or something, you spend a lot of time looking. Like I think 60%, if not more, of the time is spent looking. And then you're translating it onto the canvas. So this was my way of kind of memorializing him because I know he doesn't have too much time left. And then I'm going to bring you, so we're walking a little bit backwards, but not really. Sorry, I know that looks like company stuff. But. So these are the deer leaders. So for those of you who don't know, if you live required to book portraits of the quote-unquote dear leaders. So the former president and the current president, like Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il, and Kim Il-sung in your house. So imagine if you were required by the government to put Donald Trump's portrait in your house. That's what it's like in North Korea. And then for Kim Il-sung, he's actually considered a deity. So they think that he is governing still from heaven. So what I wanted to do was take that concept of the dear leaders' portraits in your home and put my dear leaders in there instead. So this is my grandfather, and this is my grandmother. So my grandfather came from North Korea during the war, and my grandmother walked on foot for 3 days. Now my grandmother died in May, and I was born in November. She never knew that my mom was pregnant with me, and I never got to meet her. And like I was mentioning earlier with the portrait painting of the dog, painting is really a way of studying. So the way that I had built a relationship with her is through making images of her and interviewing my mom about her story. So because they made the decision to leave North Korea, I get to stand here today. My mother went off to build, so basically my grandparents escaped North Korea. On my dad's side, my grandfather came from Franco, Spain, and he escaped that dictatorship to come to Uruguay, where he met my grandmother. So try to stay with me in this story. So my North Korean grandparents met in South Korea. They had 4 children, and then South Korea wasn't doing well economically at the time, so they immigrated to Argentina. My dad there was born in Uruguay, which is a country next to Argentina. When they were teenagers, or about 14, 15 years old, a military dictatorship took over. And basically, you weren't allowed to grow your hair long if you were a male. You weren't allowed to listen to rock and roll. A ton of things were just forbidden. And if you were thought to say anything against the military dictatorship, you quote-unquote disappeared. They still don't know where those people are. They still don't know what happened to those bodies, yeah. So my parents, my dad loved rock and roll and used to listen in the basement in secret. And he decided to immigrate to the United States with $200 in his pocket. My mom left with her family, and they only had about $2,000 as a family. My parents met in an English class. My mom was told, you're the oldest, you need to marry a Korean, but she decided to marry my dad instead, thankfully for me. They ended up building the American dream. So they ended up buying a business and retiring at age 48. So all of this to go back to the dear leaders of my family and the decisions that they made so that future generations would be able to build their dream. And I gotta tell you that I am living my dream life because of everything that my parents did for me. So if we go to this painting, you have this strong woman who's holding this plant, right? And the painting is called Persistence, because a lot of times things get tough. A lot of times, I know as students, when I was teaching students, there were so many of them that were struggling, trying to get by. I don't know how I'm going to finish this class. I don't know how I'm going to pass this class. So I really want to leave you with this message of persistence. The plants are your potential. You plant seeds and they will grow. So this painting is about that, of really pulling through and relying on, the power that lies within you to continue moving forward no matter what. Okay, and now we'll walk over to this room. So the paintings in this room are about my journey as a mother. So I'm a mother of 3. Before I had kids, I didn't even really like kids, so that's the irony there, but having kids really gave me a change of heart. And it wasn't until I became a mother that I realized, I need to figure out my family history so that, when my parents are older and they're not with us anymore, I can pass that down to my children, and then my children can pass it down to their children, and it can be saved for generations. So I started to paint that family history. So the painting behind me, this is called Where Do Babies Come From? Because I have a little bit of a sense of humor. And I wanted to think about all the invisible labor that goes into carrying babies, birthing ability to grow new life, also a vagina. And then, for vaginal births, even though I had 2 C-sections and a ring, because, it takes male and female DNA to make a baby. Although now there's so many options for having children because you can foster, you can adopt, you can have a baby through IVF on your own. So it's really opened up the possibility of motherhood and fatherhood to many different people, and I think that's really beautiful. So the screaming pictures of my children, those are, mothers know. Motherhood, I am lucky because of what my grandparents went through and what my parents went through. I've lived a pretty easygoing life in comparison. And I think one of the hardest things I've had to deal with is the transition to motherhood, because raising kids is not easy. But it has been the thing that has really pushed me into who I was meant to become. I am a better sleeper, I'm a better eater, I'm a much more prolific painter. I don't watch Netflix, I don't waste time. Like, they really molded me into a much better version of myself. And this one is called I'm a Wolf Unicorn Fairy Cat Tiger Lion, because for a long time my daughter would say, I'm a Wolf Unicorn Fairy Cat Tiger Lion. And I just thought that was such a beautiful way to say, yeah, you are Korean, you're Hawaiian, Spanish, but a little bit of Argentinian. So, and now, I was raised Catholic, but I'm raising you guys Jewish, so it's just kind of a mix of everything, right? And then that's another one of my screaming daughters. So this one's called I Want a Minnie Mouse Birthday Party, because my 3-year-old insisted that she wanted a Minnie Mouse birthday party, but the day before her birthday, she decided she wanted Frozen instead. Like, she went a whole year of Minnie Mouse, but no Frozen, here it is. But the bright colors, they're optimistic, right? Like, challenges are meant to grow you into who you're meant to become. And it is through finding meaning in those challenges that you can really evolve. And then this last piece back here is multi-generational. So you have my grandmother who's in the portrait, who's watching over us. Then you have my mother over there who's passing on to me, and it looks like somewhat like my third eye. Just this knowledge of motherhood, this instinctual knowledge from one mother to the other. And then I'm nursing my firstborn. And this is my dog, Cusco, who's the dying dog. And I put him in there to talk about just the animalistic, the natural instinct that happens when you have a child. It's like there's nothing that can prepare you for how much you change and how much you now know that you didn't know before that. And my mother is holding a flower in her hands because I am her only child. So she's kind of in prayer at that point. And, my birth, God bless my mother, because when I was born, my mother slipped into a coma. Then the 2 of us almost died. So I always think about that as like I could have died on my first day of life. And because I'm here and I was given this chance, I'm not going to mess it up. Like, I'm going to make the best of it. So the flowers that you see around you, I want those to be a message to you all. Like, there's some back there, some by the little girl, some in the other room. I hope those can be a message to you all, especially as students. Like, as students, you're in a crossroads in your life. You're getting started on the thing that you really want to learn. Like, I really hope that you realize, like, within each of you is some seed that is dying to bloom. And this is the start of your journey. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. It's the most precious, sweet beginning. And I really hope that you take this message of, like, you are powerful. You have ancestors that have also gone through so much for you to be here. Take that power and bloom. Go be who you're meant to be, and email me in 10 years because I want to know where you are. Thank you all for being here. I'm here. Ask me any questions. Does anybody have questions?